Failing miserably in the beginning is a part of becoming successful. Success is a privilege that is gained through losses and rewards. Before we have an immense amount of rewards, we often go through a certain amount of losses. Some may be more than others, but at the end of the day, we still go through the same sentiment. You're going to lose before you actually win something. You're going to lose to learn how to actually have a process and a system that's going to push you into success. People can write many books about life. You could just write another one. What do I mean by that? At the end of the day, there is no right or wrong way. Most of us are operating from our opinions. We went through an extreme amount of experiences, which puts us in a position to utilize what we went through to then put forth a plan on how we want to approach life. But that is going to be different from many people. What you go through may not be what I go through, but I will always say we grow through what we go through. So whatever it is that you are experiencing, make sure you analyze every step of the way. Put yourself in a position to always learn, because life is teaching you something and life is giving you an opportunity to build a skill set. A lot of people don't see it like that, but as I stated before, that's my approach based on my experience. Every time I go through something, even if it feels bad, which is always going to be the case, you're going to always go through something in life. It's never going to be a part or a time in life where you're just going through life and it's just smooth. It's always going to be some intricacies, some difficulties. It's going to be some discrepancies within life, and you have to go through it. You have to adapt. Adaptation is key when it comes to life. But everybody can write a book, and then whoever comes in after us can continue to write books, and the process continues. Therefore, there is no right or wrong way. There is no definition when it comes to how to do life or life in general. It's everywhere. Life is full of vicissitudes. It's going to be ups and downs along the way. You have to keep moving forward. It took me 10 years to understand this. Nobody truly knows. You're taught to walk through life and play it safe. We've all heard this, at least most of us. Our grandparents, our parents, they've overly emphasized play it safe. They've overly emphasized get a good job, get a wife, get a husband, buy a home, have some children, start a family, etc. But some of you are going to want more in life. Some of you are in positions right now you don't want to be in. You're working a job you don't want to work. Now, I oftentimes give my experience and my perspective. The only way I see how to get out of that job is to better your skill set, better yourself, and take advantage of all opportunities. Oftentimes, though, you're going to have to remain at that job. You're going to have to utilize that job to get away from that job. I wouldn't recommend just quitting that job, but obviously do whatever you so please. It's all on you. You have to make those decisions. The consequences of your actions, only you can deal with it. So it doesn't matter what I think. I'm not no way near of importance when it comes to people making decisions, but given my experience and me always voicing my perspective, I understand that you're going to have to make a choice. But oftentimes what we've learned in life, it doesn't necessarily help us. It's not necessarily hurting us, but it doesn't help us. Why? Because what somebody else may see or how they view life, everybody views life differently. Everybody views the world differently. It may not coexist with what you feel deep down. You know, you're unique. You're who you are. Whoever is giving you advice or persuading you to do things a certain way, live life a certain way, it may not coexist with what you think. So you're going to have to go through whatever it is to put yourself in a position to listen to people, acquire the knowledge, listen to the information, but then you go back and you decide what information you actually want to use within your life, because it may or may not be beneficial for you. And you have to make those decisions. This is all going to be decisions made by you. It can't be anybody else. It always and forever has to be you. Oftentimes we're taught to avoid risk. I said this before. You cannot avoid risk. Life is risk. Everything about life is risk. No matter what we've been taught, no matter what we go through, you're going to always have to step up to the plate when risk is involved. People love sports. I always bring up sports because, to be honest, sports is easy. It's either you're talented and you work hard, or you're not talented but you work hard. You're probably not going to be a professional. Okay, you're done with sports after that. You could probably play just to stay in shape. It'll be something that you do for fun. It's a health and fitness thing. But when you're talking about life, a lot of people run away from that pressure, that risk. Step up to the plate. I oftentimes hold men accountable. Listen, at some point you have to think, I'm trying to better my lineage. I'm trying to better my life, my family tree. I can't do the same thing my mother and father did. I want to do more. I want to accomplish more. I want to do better. It's not a diss to my family. I'm not disrespecting my mother and my father. But let's say someone tells you how to do something. If you don't get an extreme or immediate release of dopamine because you're actually excited about that, you haven't even done anything yet. The information alone helps you release a chemical, dopamine, because you have a heightened sense of excitement. You're feeling good about whatever it is that you're listening to because you actually agree. This is something you possibly want to go out and actually do with your life. So you get that hit of dopamine, and this is going to prepare you into doing what? taking action, action, action. You're going to be consistent because you remember that feeling, and you also remember what you've been told, what you heard, having those conversations, giving those ideas, that advice, those tips, and you want to actually go out and you want to pursue that. But if you're getting information from someone, if they're trying to persuade you to do a certain thing, and you're not getting that sense of dopamine, then this may be an indication that you need to do something totally different. It's okay to sit there and listen, show respect. You can listen to people give information because information is currency. Knowledge is currency, so long as you utilize it. But if you're not getting that extreme hit of dopamine, then you may not want to conform to that. It may not be formidable for whatever it is that you're trying to do in your life. But you're going to always go through this because people oftentimes like to voice what they think should be done. Oftentimes say, I'm not exempt from this. I'm talking to a camera. But it's always me emphasizing perspective. I'm not telling you what to do. I may be giving my opinion, but my opinion is not law. My opinion is not facts. My opinion is not priority over you. But I learned this over 10 years that people are going to always have opinion, just like you, just like me. What aligns with what gives you that sense of excitement? Now, along the way, you may lose that excitement. That's when you have to focus on the process, execution. You know where you want to be. Don't focus on how fast it's going to take you to get there. Just focus on getting there. You're going to always see people around you getting there a lot quicker. I see it all the time. I always bring up YouTube since we're on YouTube. You're going to see people get to 100,000, 500,000, 1 million subscribers way quicker than you, or quicker than someone else that you followed that you thought had success, and they did. Everybody's success is going to be different. For whatever reason, YouTube it's a place for entertainment. Oftentimes people use it for information, but it's just like that in real life. People go to places for entertainment. People go to places for education. People go to places because they're just curious. It's human nature. So when somebody's giving you information, understand they may have had, a prominent reason to do that, which is why they came up with that conclusion, and they're trying to pass it on to you. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't give you that dopamine release, if you're not immediately excited, you have to then step back and say, okay, I can always listen to people, but is this going to be something that I want to do with my life? And if the answer is no, that's cool. You don't have to be disrespectful about it. Just understand you're going to always have to deal with this. It's in every setting. It's success. People have reasonings that's outside whatever you went through. And just like you have yours, they have theirs. You may not voice yours, but they're voicing theirs. It's okay. Give them time to vent, because sometimes people are just venting, and then you go off and you still do whatever it is that you want to do. But you have to take risks. You have to understand that you may have to step out of your comfort zone. You can't play it safe. And at the end of the day, nobody has a direct book about life. Life is just full of ups and downs, vicissitudes. It's going to be there. You're not going to be able to avoid it. Life is intricate. It's sometimes it's often counterintuitive. You may do something thinking it's going to give you a good reward, but if you do the complete opposite, it's like less is more. If you do the complete opposite, sometimes you get a greater result. Now, you still may have to reform your process. It's not just going to be set in stone, but you learn these things through life because this is life in general. This is just what life is. We can't predict when bad things happen, but we can always prepare ourselves to how we respond. This is life. You understand what I'm saying? It may take you 2 years. You may even understand this already, but I'm just giving what I've learned. You can't control people. Some of us as men, we're trying to find that perfect woman. She doesn't exist. We're trying to have that perfect relationship. We're trying to have that perfect opportunity. Sometimes you have to go and create it. Everybody's not going to like you. Accept it, understand it. It's a part of life. If you're wasting time focusing on things you can't control, you're not controlling yourself. If you're trying to make people happy, you're possibly not happy yourself. If you're trying to be friends with everybody, you're possibly an enemy to yourself. If you're not always trying to acquire knowledge, you're holding yourself back whether you realize it or not, and you're doing it to yourself. You have to hold yourself accountable. Responsibility, accountability, discipline, all of these things, we don't necessarily learn this. Because the number one thing, what I said first, oftentimes we taught how to play it safe. And through playing it safe, you avoid a lot of these issues, a lot of these discrepancies. But these issues, these discrepancies, these problems, they help you build the skill set of problem solving, which is going to always be a part of life. You get what I'm saying? You can avoid it all you want, but it's still going to be there because not one human being on this planet is going to ever avoid problems in life. And what I also learned, and it took me a while to accept, problems are not necessarily the issue. It's how we deal with our problems, which lead back to who we are as a person, which leads back to how we deal with how we think. How we think releases a chemical, or how we think, you become what you think, and what you become, you express through emotion, energy. Emotion is energy in motion. So it's how you think, what you become, what you become, you express through emotion. People can feel that. People understand that. People see you. So you may not want to express yourself in a way where it's comfortable for people, and that's okay. I always say don't try to force yourself to make people comfortable, but you can be respectful. This is where if people just don't like you because you're just not their cup of tea per se. You have to accept it and move forward. It's just a part of life. It took me 10 years to learn this. All you have to do is accept you're gonna make mistakes. You have to take risk. You can't control people. You definitely can't control women if you're a man trying to. Women are people too. You're never gonna have the perfect relationship. You're never gonna have the perfect family. You don't have the perfect mother, father. You're not gonna have the perfect opportunity. All of these things is you have to make do with what you have. You have to trust your process. If you have a process, force yourself to stick to a process because you're doing better than most people. And it's not to brag about doing better than most people, but it's where you're at in life. They're gonna get there. A lot of people are not focused on having a process. It doesn't mean they're not gonna get there. They're not denounced from having a process. They're not to be cast out. You know, we can't say they're not human beings. They're still human beings. They're not where you're at. They're not where I'm at. I'm always focused on a process. I'm gonna keep going. It may not be what I want, how I want it, but I remember nothing's gonna be perfect. If it's issues, I have to deal with it. If it's problems, it's always how I deal with my problem. If I have things to do, if I have responsibilities, I have to be a man and stand on my responsibility. But all of this goes back to me understanding it's always going to be risk involved. It's always going to start with your mindset. If you can't stick to growth, no matter how it comes, some of it's going to be post-traumatic growth. I'll make a video about that. Some things you're going to go through and immediately your brain releases discipline. Your brain releases a chemical or it reminds itself immediately like, okay, we can't do this because we don't like the reaction. We don't need to go through this 2, 3, 4, 5 times. This one time we experience this, that is enough for us to understand, I don't want to go through this anymore. So what do? We start to not do the things that put us in that uncomfortable position. That's post-traumatic growth. Now it's going to be something else later down the road because there will always be problems. But now you build a habit of doing what? You don't need multiple mistakes. And I oftentimes say after 1, 2, you're not making mistakes. You have a bad habit of making bad decisions. But that post-traumatic growth is something that you will always understand because you spend less time analyzing your mistakes. So you don't build a bad habit of making mistakes. What you do is you start to analyze, you become more efficient on actually putting effort through what is needed to be put through for you to get on the other side of said experiences. So I'll bring up football. The first time I got knocked out on the football field, I understood how I had to push forward and give extreme effort because I didn't want to get knocked out anymore. So outside of sports, I always say sports is easy. In life, let's say you run a red light, you get a ticket. Don't run a red light anymore. As much as you want to just keep going because the light is yellow, just stop. That's discipline. You have to have discipline. Took me years to understand all of this. It all comes back. Running a red light is a risk. Being on the football field, not giving my all while everybody around me is pushing and giving it all, that's a risk. Dealing with a woman is a risk, even though you can't control her. Your relationships will never be perfect, but you want relationships. That's a risk. You accept it. You embrace it. And you learn how to adapt. Adaptation is going to be key. Money is important. We talk about money. I'm not even going to bring that up in this because I want to just focus on the mindset behind dealing with life. Obviously, money is important. We talk about that all the time. It's not that we sell our soul or we think we're better than people, but it's essential. They say money ain't everything. Give me your money. It's just a sense of humor, you guys. Don't take it serious, but at the end of the day, you guys know money is up there just as much as air. You need it. So this is another thing I want to express. Don't build a habit of trying to avoid reality. Reality is free. Your fantasy is going to cost you. Money is important. You can't control people. You don't have the perfect family. You have to take risks. You can't play it safe. You don't know what's going to happen. You have to have discipline, accountability, responsibility. You have to understand you have to grow. As a man, you should think, how can I better my family? Even if you don't have kids, move accordingly. What if you practice as if you had kids today before you actually have kids? What if you practice to make enough money to take care of a child before you actually have a wife and child, if you want one? And even if you don't, imagine where you would be. I believe Elon Musk, even though a lot of people don't agree with him, he said, you can have a plan that's it may take 5 years. You give yourself 5 years. What if you move as if you need to get it done in 2 years, 2.5 years? You may still take more than 2 years, 2.5 years, but you probably will finish before 5, maybe 3.5, 4. That's a lot of time you've covered by just giving more effort and accepting that just because you're not in that position doesn't mean you can't move like that. I always say, and I'm gonna leave it with this. I used to tell kids when I was coaching, don't wait until you're in the NFL to practice being a professional football player. Practice being a professional football player now. Be a professional now, so if and when you get there, it's already second nature. You've built that habit of doing what? Being a professional. Do what a professional would do today while you're in high school. So once you get there, if you're fortunate enough to get there, it's second nature. See, these are the things that a lot of people don't know growing up, but you have to focus or you have to practice. This is something that's going to take a hard work and dedication, but you can do it. And it's a lot of things we're going to get into. I'll probably do a part 2 about this, but it took me a long time to really understand this and accept it. But it's a part of life. It's going to be essential for you, especially as men. I know ladies are listening, thank you, but for the men, it's going to be essential for you, and you have to stay focused.